My dear FOSS guru. That's a bit over the top, but I'll accept it. I have a dilemma, asks Master Geek MX over on Twitter. I love FOSS, I love free and open source software and ethical services, but if I decide to go near-stallman with them, I will be more isolated than a monk because everyone around here is hesitant to go outside of its privacy-invasive comfort zone. That is so totally true, Master Geek. It's hard. It's hard because even if I and you and a couple of our friends all are like, you know what? I don't want to be spied on. I don't want my information to be data mined. I don't want to have every email and instant message and tweet and whatnot that I send out into the intertubes to be harvested, collected, and analyzed and used to advertise back at me. And then that information sold off to 14 separate competing organizations whose complete purpose of existing is to gather that data and sell it to yet more companies. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. But yet, if we say, okay, we don't want that. If those of us who don't want it say no more, and we say we're just going to go on social networks that are respecting of freedom and privacy, and we're only going to use hardware that respects freedom and privacy, we are cutting ourselves off a little bit. It's a bit of a dilemma. So I think there's two different ways to look at this. The first is if you're someone like me whose job relies on getting information out to people. And I think if that's the case, you're up a creek. You just simply have to use things like Twitter. You just have to. Now, I mean, there's things that you and I can do because we have to reach the audience, right? I have to be on YouTube. Like you can get this show on Library and you can get a podcast feed, and those respect your privacy. Those respect your security and your personal freedoms and use all open source software. But if I want the messages that we're talking about of freedom, of privacy and security to reach a broad audience of people who need to hear about these things, you got to be on YouTube. I just have to be on YouTube. And then I also have to be on the tweeters. I have to have tweeters and YouTubers. I have to do those things. I just don't have a choice about the matter. If I cut myself off from that completely, I'll still have me and you and a lot of the lovely, wonderful people that watch this show. We'll all be able to get the show, and this show will continue and have a great audience, and it'll be wonderful. But we won't get to reach those new people that need to hear about these sorts of things, to hear about these problems that we're having. So for me, and for people like me, and for people who need to sell software or services or spread the word about their articles or their videos or their podcasts or any of these or events that they're involved in, you have to end up being on the social networks and whatnot and communication channels that make that possible to reach that broad audience. It's just the way it is. There's no way out of that. And the reality is, until everybody, and I mean everybody, at least mostly everybody, is moved over to services that do respect their privacy, people like me are always going to have to be on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or whatnot. It's just the way it is. Now, from a personal life standpoint, realistically, there's usually only a small handful of people that you need to interact with on a regular basis, realistically. If you really narrow it down, if you sit back and say, okay, what people do I really want to be in contact with? If you have a Facebook, right? Let's say if you have a Facebook, if you use Facebook and you have your 500 person long friends list on Facebook, how many of those people do you really want to be interacting with on a regular basis? Odds are it's a small number, but a number that you're not willing to give up, right? You want to be in contact with, I don't know, maybe your parents, maybe some friends, maybe some organizations or clubs that you're involved in, and that might be about it, right? A couple of family members here and there, your cousin Tabitha from Wisconsin, things like that. You want to be able to be in contact with those folks. So it's hard to find a way to move them over to something that does respect your privacy. I was about 2 years ago, I left Facebook, right? Is it 2 years ago? Something like that. I left Facebook And I tried my darndest to get some of my friends and family who used Facebook over to something else. I was like, come on, guys, email me. I was using Wire for instant messaging and group chats at the time, and I was like, let's use that, and let maybe use Mastodon for for social media stuff. And I got like four, like four people from Facebook that mostly use Facebook for their communication came over with me to those other platforms, to those other tools. And that was great. That was nice of them. However, the rest of them, including, the aunts and the uncles and the cousins and the everyone else, they just stayed on Facebook. They just stayed right there in their Facebooky comfort zone. And so I get what you're saying, Master Geek. It's hard. I don't really go to Facebook. I do have a Facebook account again because I need to be able to moderate like company and show pages and whatnot. But I don't really use it much on a personal level. Just because every time I do it, it makes me feel like a little dirty and crusty, and I don't like it. It makes me feel yucky. So, like every now and then, if I know there's something happening, like if I know there's like one of my siblings is about to have a baby or something, and or there's a big family event, I know it's coming up. I'm like, I'll hop on Facebook and I'll check, and that's about it that I can stomach for me. But until I can get all of them off of Facebook completely, I'll still have the Facebook account. My Facebook account, I kid you not, doesn't even have a picture of me in it. Like, you're supposed to set up your little avatar picture. I intentionally leave it blank. Like, if you don't know me, if you don't know me by the specific name, you don't need to have my Facebook account. Like, I put as little information there as possible. I've posted like 3 things, just again, like family, like event announcement-y things. But it's a problem, right? If you go near Stallman, because let's be honest, not even Stallman goes full Stallman. We've talked about that on the show before. Going full Stallman is patently impossible. It is not possible to do in today's universe without becoming a complete hermit. Like you say, without becoming a monk. Unless you become a monk, it is impossible to go full Stallman. It just is. Stallman doesn't do it. But going near Stallman, I feel like is a reasonable goal for someone who's worried about personal privacy and security and freedoms and the like. I think that's a worthwhile goal. And I don't think it has to be an all or nothing thing. I don't think you need to worry because you're not going near Stallman. You're not reaching some line threshold where you say, you know what, I'm using all free software in my systems. I'm using all free software and open source online services. And I've reached that goal. I've crossed that line. You don't have to worry about that. I think personally, the fact that you're asking these questions, the fact that you're thinking about them and trying your best to utilize those services that you can and trying to move people over to them is enough. That is good because that makes you more I almost want to use the word healthy, but it's not. It's like a technologically and psychologically healthy. It moves you closer to that ultimate goal of being near Stallman-y, right? And the closer you get, the better you can feel about all that. And I think that's fantastic. It's sort of like eating healthy food, right? You don't have to give up junk food entirely. Just limiting the amount of junk food you take into your life is going to make you healthier, right? Like eating more vegetables is good. Doesn't mean you only have to eat vegetables, but eating some more vegetables in your diet is good, Brushing your teeth. Brushing your teeth is wonderful. I highly recommend brushing your teeth. Does it mean you need to always be brushing your teeth by like every second of the day? Just walk around nonstop brushing your teeth? No, that's ridiculous. Does it mean you need to be flossing 24/7? No, but floss and brush your teeth every day and make sure you get all that done and all that sort of thing. Maybe after every meal, all these sorts of things. That's good. That's good enough. Call it right there. Call it right there. And be happy about the progress you've made to be healthier in your physical life or in your technological life. Your technological health is improved, and that's good enough. But it is hard. And convincing people to move over is hard. I think there needs to be a better effort made by the industry as a whole to create convenient ways to utilize services that respect your freedom and privacy. I think that needs to be a goal. And there are companies out there doing it. For lack of sounding a little shilly, that is one of the reasons that I decided to start doing some marketing work for the folks at Purism, because that's one of the things that they were working on. They put together a Librem One service, and they're like, okay, we're taking all the best of the open source stuff, the free software stuff that respects privacy, and we're trying to make it convenient and a nice prepackaged way to put it in front of people that aren't just maybe you and me, but also all the other people, the family members that we have out there, and say, this is like what you're used to, but it supports your freedom and privacy. And I think that's fantastic. I think more needs to be done on that front. And I think that you and I utilizing services like that, I'm not saying you have to go out and use Purism services and whatnot. I do, but you can use whatever is like that you feel enhances your personal privacy and security, and encouraging a couple of family members to use it. If we can get to the point where you can have a couple of friends using it, a couple of family members using it, well, that kind of has a snowball effect after a while, because eventually enough people will be using other services like that, like Mastodon-based services or whatnot, that it will encourage yet more people to come over. It kind of just works like that. You reach that critical threshold and it makes it happen. So you pushing forward, you trying to use those sorts of things that support like the free software ethos, the privacy respecting ideals, encourages maybe one or two people to come over. And if one or two people can encourage one or two people themselves, it starts spreading really fast. And I think that's the only way to accomplish the ultimate goal that I think you and I want to have, of let's make sure that we're all being respected, that our privacy is being respected. I think that's the ultimate goal, and that's the only way to get there. And I'm sure my friends over at Lulzbot, the makers of the Lulzbot 3D printer, actually the company's name is Aleph Objects, and they make Lulzbot 3D printers. But if you go to lulzbot.com, you can find the best 3D printers on the planet, bar none. Big supporters, by the way, of both open source and free software, not just by supporting shows like this one and conferences that they go to, but they've also had sales where they literally were like, every sale we make, we'll donate an extra $50 to the Free Software Foundation. How awesome is that? That's friggin' rad. Go over and check them out over at lulzbot.com. They're absolutely glorious. They even try to make a concerted effort to use predominantly open source stuff in-house. I love that. I absolutely love that. And you can find out more information about this show over at these fine universal resource locators here. Go over to lunduke.com. You can ask questions on this show by sending me an email, sending out a tweet, going over to the Fediverse, any Mastodon-based client or StatusNet or whatnot, or Librem One. I'm at Lunduke at Librem.one over there, and you just use the hashtag AskLunduke, all one word. That way I make sure I see it. That makes it fancy. I almost did jazz hands there. The bbs.lunduke.com is down right now, but hopefully shortly after this video comes out, within like a day or two, it'll be back up. We're doing a server migration right now. Get this. This is only really interesting for people who are into BBSs, but so a BBS, right, used to be you dial it up with an old phone line, an old 14.4 US robotics modem or something like that, right? Well, I've had a BBS up and running that runs over Telnet, so you could Telnet connect to it online, which is great, tons of fun. It's been running for years for the most part, with a couple ups and downs, but I haven't had a running modem on it. So people couldn't dial into it using an old school phone line and modem. That's changing, son. Migrating to a new server. It's going to be located here at my house. People are going to be able to telnet into it and dial into it, which is ridiculous, but also awesome. More information on that once it's actually up. Hopefully soon. Hopefully I get it working shortly. And also, if you want to watch this show, but you don't want to be on YouTube, and let's say you want to get the video version of the show, go to library, lbry.com, download the library client, or you can go to beta.lbry.com TV, I think. My channel name is just @Lunduke. You can find it there. You can subscribe to it. And when new shows come out, they automatically get downloaded as DRM-free MP4 files, which means you can play them inside of library, which is fine. But you can also open them up and play them in VLC or media player, any sort of media playback application you've got on whatever Linux distro or any other operating system you have. Take it, back it up, put it anywhere. That's how it should be. Highly recommend grabbing it that way. All right. Talk to you guys later.